Hi, it's Carly McAvoy. I'm going to go over the Math 96 measurement assignment today. No one attended the Zoom session in person, which is totally fine. You can watch the video later. If you don't do well in the measurement assignment, I will refer you back to this because the best thing you can do is to go through this in the way that I intended you to, which is step-by-step help like this. After that, we're going to go through the we read an article activity that's not published in your class. You don't have to do this activity, but it's an activity I created to help you with the read an article project. I know a lot of people already completed it, and so I'm going to post this, and if you want to go back through and look at the help before I grade it, you might want to do that because you can resubmit it up until I grade it. Okay, so let's look at the measurement assignment. In the measurement assignment, I do have a video posted that goes through a lot of what I'm going to go through here. I always try to post help videos, but also I want to preview it. Go through it as this. I don't want to go there. So I'm going to go here and see if I can actually open this assignment. I want to preview it. Oh, this is just a document to download. Sorry, that's not a quiz. Sorry. All right, you can open the PDF or the DocX version of this. I'm going to open this PDF form. And the first problem that you have to do here is talking about finding out how much square footage there is in a room and to decide then how many square yards of carpet you need to buy. And so in order to do this problem, and I'm just going to walk through how to do it, I'm not going to tell you to do it. You need to change, I'm not going to tell you the answers. You need to change 12 foot 8 inches into just inches or just feet. More exact answer would be go to everything to inches. And so if you think 12 times 12 is 144 plus 8 more, that would tell you the number of inches that you have here. And then you would come over and do the same thing here, 12 times 14 plus 6, and you would have inches times inches. Now when you take whatever those values are, when you take inches something times inches, you get inches squared. And that's not what you get. You get inches squared when you multiply. Sorry, this is a little scattered. And so then after you get inches squared, you want to change inches squared into yards squared. So here's what I would do. I would find this inches squared, whatever that answer is, and then you would multiply, and you want to put inches squared on the bottom, and you want to put yards squared on the top. And how many inches squared are there in a yard squared? Well, a yard is 36 inches. Yikes. And so if I have a square yard, I have 36 inches on each side. And if I take 36 times 36, well, that's really, well, you can just multiply that out. But 36 times 36 is 1,296. That's how many inches squared there are in one square yard. So whatever answer you got over here, when you change this to inches and you change that to inches and you multiplied it together, then you're going to take whatever that answer is and you're going to divide by 1,296. And then you have to remember to add this 10% waste. So now once you divide by 1,296, you will have your answer in square yards, but there's a couple of things left. One is to add 10% waste. So let's say that I got 8.7 square yards. That's not the answer. I'm just saying if I got that. 10% of that would be 0.87. So I would add those two together, and 8.7 plus 0.87 is 9.57. Now I have 9.57 square yards, but I cannot buy part of a square yard. So I can't buy 9.57, so I would round that up and say I'm going to buy 10 square yards. Okay, so that's how you do that problem. you have to remember to add on that 10% at the end and also to round up to the nearest whole number, but also convert that correctly. If you were to change this into feet instead of inches, you could do that, but then you'd have feet squared, and that would be divided by 9 to get to yards squared. Okay, so next thing I'm going to talk about is converting this problem here into meters per second. And what you want to do is convert using the unit conversion. So I'm not going to do the numbers here, but I will show you how this looks. You have kilometers per hour, and you want to change that into meters per second. So the first thing you could do is change hours. You could say, I want to change hours into minutes, and that would be 60 minutes over 1 hour. And then I want to change the minutes into seconds. And that would be, again, 60 seconds to 1 minute. And then you want to change your kilometers. You want to get rid of kilometers, and you want to end up with meters. And there is 1,000 meters for every 1 kilometer. So you start off with your 54.7. It looks like this kind of. And then you just cancel hours, cancel the minutes, end up with seconds on the bottom, cancel the kilometers down here, and end up with meters on the bottom, and multiply all these numbers on top and bottom. And finally, remember to round to the 10th, because that's what the directions say to do. So if you got 19.75, that would be 19.8 for this answer. All right, moving on. The next question is, some people find it very easy. Other people find it very confusing. Whoops, I don't want that. And that is, what we're going to do is, I have an example here where we have NP thyroid, and what this says is, this is the dosage available. Like, let's say you work at a place and they have this medicine cart and there's a dosage available of this much. But you see on the chart that the patient is prescribed 75 milligrams. So you just have this gram tablet. So what you're going to do is convert this dosage available to the dosage, to the type of unit that's prescribed. So we would take 0.05 grams and change that into milligrams. And all you have to do up here is come to grams. And you see how milligrams is 1, 2, 3 places to the right. We take our decimal point and you move that 3 places to the right. 1, 2, 3, and that would give you 50. Then, now you know I have a tablet that's 50 milligrams, but I'm supposed to give 75. So then you want to say, well, how many tablets do I need to give this patient? You take whatever's prescribed, in this case 75, and you divide by the available amount, which is 50. And 75 divided by 50 is 1.5. So that patient would get 1.5 tablets. So expect to get some fractional answers here. Leave them as decimals, that's fine. Sometimes it might be a whole number, but you're going to just follow the same thing. Take the dosage available, change it into the prescribed amount, and then take prescribed, divide by this answer that you got here to get the number of tablets. Okay, and then the last one is kind of like, it's a little bit more of a thinker. Well, 4B is not. I'll talk about that first. So it says that the spa that this person has, he has a 2,000 liter spa, and he keeps it at 38.5 degrees Celsius. And a pregnant friend was told to only get into the spa if the temperature was below 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Can she use the spa safely, and explain? So what you have to do there is convert 100 degrees Fahrenheit into Celsius. And once you make that conversion, decide, is the answer that you got above or below this number? If it's below this number, it would be safe. And if it's above that number, it would not be safe. So that's all that is converting. You can look that formula up in my video that I posted. Also, you can look it up, just Google it online. What is the formula to convert between Celsius? Or you can even just put in what is 100 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius on your phone, and it'll tell you that. And then you can explain. So make sure to explain show your work and explain. So I want to see your work. If you do it on a phone, then you might want to go back and find that formula just to fill it in. Okay, there's no exact answer to this one. This person has a 2,000 liter spa, and it goes out to the directions on the chemicals say to add 1.5 to 2 fluid ounces for every 500 gallons. So we've been given the SPA in liters. So what the first thing you want to do is change the liters into gallons so that you can compare correctly, because the directions are saying that. So it shows 1.5 to 2 fluid ounces. So you might decide, hey, I would put 2 fluid ounces in, but you might decide I put 1.5 fluid. So there's no exact answer because it depends on how much you would put in based on the 500 gallons. But let's say that you ended up converting this. Oh, the other thing is you only have tablespoons. So you have to make 2 conversions here. You have to change your liters into gallons. And you have to change your fluid ounces into tablespoons. Is that the right shorten for tablespoons? I think it is. So you have to make those 2 conversions. Once you do, you're going to say, oh, I have 800 gallons, and I know that 4 tablespoons is 2 fluid ounces or whatever it is, and then you can make a good choice that way. So make those 2 conversions and then think about, well, how many would I put in there? This is actually a problem that came up in my life, so I know it can happen, where I had to figure out what am I actually putting in here. Okay, that is the measurement assignment. Let's close that and take a look at the other assignment that I stuck in here for our purposes for this little video, but you won't see it because I haven't published it for you. You don't have to do it. But this one is looking at the TV and lifespan article. And so we're going to just talk through that about what we're looking for. And I have a document that shows you what questions we're going to be asking. So let's download this first so I can have that up to look at. So I have the article. And then I also have I also have, besides the article, I have the questions that we're going to be asked. Let's close that. Hey, Allison. I'm just starting to go through the kind of help session for Project 1. Have you done Project 1 yet? No. Okay, good. So if you haven't done it, that's good, because this is going to be helpful. And I'm going to just walk through what the questions are and what to expect when you're looking at this article. So these are the articles, the questions that you see, but they are in the quiz form when you do your project, but these are the same questions. So the first question is just, what's the name of the article you read? And so when I look at this, the name of the article is Watching TV Shortens Lifespan, Study Finds. What people do sometimes is they just shorten it to TV and lifespan or whatever, but put the actual name of the article at the top of whatever is given, that's what you want to give. So that should be an easy 2 points, although people do tend to miss it because they just shorten it. The second question is this article based on an observational study or an experiment, and how do you know? So how you know it's an experiment is if they do something to the subjects. Like if I change the length of a traffic light and then watch to see how many cars get backed up, that's an experiment because I've actually changed it. If I just drove out and watched people go through a stoplight for a couple of days and made note of that, that would be a study because I just observed. I didn't actually do anything. If I go to a mall and have people taste test something, that's an experiment because I'm doing something to them. If I just stand back and watch which soda do they buy out of the vending machine, that's a study. So an experiment is when something is done or applied to the subject, whereas an observational study is just watching and making observations based on what you're watching. So for this particular article, this says that the American Heart Association, the journal published this, and they looked at the health data among 8,800 men and women older than 25 who were part of the Australian diabetes. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Study, and the subjects were given a test just to determine their blood sugar and then blood samples. And so for one thing, right away, you can see the first thing they say is that this is a study. They don't say an experiment. They say this is a study. That's a good clue. Secondly, they're just having people with heart and cardiovascular disease were excluded. They had the people watch TV, and then after they watched TV, they recorded how much TV they watched, and then they followed them for 6 years to see how many people were still alive. So this is a study because they literally just watched people and then said, okay, who died, who didn't die. So this would be a study, so an observational study, and I know that because no treatment was given to the study people. There, nothing was altered. They were just like, hey, let's just see what you do. So what happened is in a follow-up 6 years later, 87 people had died due to cardiovascular disease and 125 of cancer. This was of the 8,800 men and women who were older than 25. And so they found a strong connection between the number of hours that you watch TV and your death from cardiovascular disease. Not just among the overweight and obese, but among people who had healthy weight and exercised. People who watched more than 4 hours a day showed an 80% greater risk of dying from cardiovascular disease and 46% higher risk of causes of death, all causes of death, compared to those who watched fewer than 2 hours a day, suggesting that being sedentary could have a general deleterious effect. Okay, the numbers were the same after the researchers controlled for smoking, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, unhealthy diet, and leisure time exercise. So these are all things that they considered. Well, maybe our people died because they're actually smokers and they watch TV, but they controlled for that, saying that that isn't that. So the next question on your questionnaire is give a confounding variable, or if it's an experiment, give a treatment. If it's a confounding variable, if it's a study, give a compounding variable. So a treatment, like I said, would be what is the thing they did? Like, oh, they changed the length of the stoplight. That's a treatment. But a confounding variable means something that might have changed the results of this experiment that the researchers didn't consider. So you couldn't say, oh, maybe people were smokers. They considered that. It says right here they controlled for smoking, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, unhealthy diet, and leisure time exercise. So, for example, a confounding variable might be, where do these people live? Are they living in the city where it's congested and they have stress every day of their life as opposed to living in the country? That might change the results, right? So that might be a confounding variable. Or a confounding variable might be, what do they do for their job? Are they really active on their job all day and then they can get away with watching more TV as opposed to sitting at a desk and then watching TV all day? So what you have to think about when you read your article is what's a confounding variable? As in, what's something that might have changed the results of this that the researchers didn't think of? That's what a confounding variable is. So that's the third question. That's usually the one that gets people a little bit tripped up, and they want to say things like, oh, maybe people lied about the number of their amount of their exercise. That's just people lying. That's not a confounding variable. Confounding variable is something that they might have been doing that caused them to die, or something else that they were doing. Maybe it doesn't talk about. They already said earlier in the article they read out people that had a history of cardiovascular disease, so those weren't even in the study. So anyway, so that's where you want to find a confounding variable, something that would change it. Okay, and then number 4, what's the source of the research and funding? And so what you're looking for here is who did the study, or who paid for the study, or who commissioned the study, something like that. And in this paragraph down here, we can see it says that David Dunstan, who's the lead author of the study and professor and head of physical activity labs in Victoria, Australia, he's like the researcher, so that's a head researcher. Also, the Australian Diabetes, Obesity, and Lifestyle Study, this one was that was part of it. We can read through and just find what you want to look for when you read through your article is somebody where they mention who's researching this, who commissioned it, who funded it, whatever. So that's what we're looking for here. And so one of the things is people will say, oh, this was Janine Stein did this. This Janine Stein just published this article. She didn't do the research or fund it. She's just a person who published the thing. So we don't want to say that she did that. This is Australian researchers. It says right there at the top. And then we also know that David Dunstan guy is the head researcher and that kind of thing. So that's what we're looking for there, is kind of who did it and who commissioned it, and then not who wrote the article about it. The next question is, who were the individuals or things that were studied and how were they selected? So in this particular study, it says the individuals that were studied were 8,800 men and women older than 25, and they were selected because they had been part of the Australian Diabetes, Obesity, and Lifestyle Study. That's all we have to say there. We want to say how many people were involved, if it was men or women, if that's important. It could be cars or something, but and how the fact that they were over 25 is important, and then that's it. And you might say too that they, because I think I read somewhere in here a minute ago that they were excluded from the study if they had people with a history of cardiovascular disease were not included. So that's maybe something you could say about who was included in this study. 8,800 men and women who were 25 or older, part of this diabetes study, that did not have a history of cardiovascular disease. Because it might be important for somebody to know that hey, you know, we didn't just put people with bad hearts in here and then go, oh, look at all the people that are dying. You know, that would not really kind of, yeah. So that would skew it. So, hi, we're just doing, we're going through a practice of that Project 1. And did you do Project 1 already? If you did, you can go back and redo it if you find any insights from this video, or if you haven't done it yet, it might help you as you go through that. So that's what we're doing right now. So the next question on this, after who was studied, was to summarize the researcher's procedure for the experiment or study. And then it says, be specific and include as many details as possible. So we know for this study, the subjects were given glucose tests to determine blood sugar and blood samples to establish cholesterol levels. Then they were asked to go home and watch TV. They were asked to go home and watch TV in their regular way. And then they were recorded how many hours a week. What we showed was they just went home and then recorded the amount of TV that they watched over the next week. That's what they did. The participants were given those couple of tests, and then for the next week they recorded their television viewing and reported how many hours of TV they watched a day. That's how they gathered their data. That's what the experiment was. Okay, let's take all these people, let's give them tests to see where they are to begin with, let them watch TV for a week, and then watch them for the next 6 years and see who dies and of what. That's what they did. So that's what would summarize that experiment. Remember to say that they followed up with, for 6 years to see who actually was alive at the end of that time, and if they died, what they died of. And of course, the study was like if somebody died in a car accident, then that would be something they would throw out because that wouldn't have anything to do with watching TV, right? So then number 7 says, what's the outcome or finding of the experiment? Be specific and include numerical outcomes if possible. So here's the stuff at the top. They threw in some numbers: 11% greater risk of all death, 18% greater risk of dying for cardiovascular disease. So these are the findings. The researchers found this, the 18% greater risk of dying from cardiovascular disease, but for each hour a day. But if you go down here, it says that, I think a little nicer, people who watched more than 4 hours a day had an 80% greater risk of death, and 46% of cardiovascular death, and 46 of all people who watch 2 hours a day. So there's some data right there you could grab out. Here's what we really found, is that watching TV has a bad effect on your health. Even if you have an exercise regimen, you go out and run every day, they accounted for that, and they still saw that these people were dying. So that's where I'm looking for, not just to say it showed people that watch TV die. Like, I want to see this 4 hours a day, 80% greater risk, and 40%, 6% higher risk of all deaths. And my husband watched a lot of TV, and he's in denial about this article. So we'll see.
That's a lot of TV a day, 4 hours a day.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think he gets that in sometimes. And so he's very, vigorously busy other times. So he's saying like, well, yeah, but I'm out in the yard working. And I don't know what that counts for. So this is saying it doesn't matter. Don't sit in front of the TV that much. Okay, so then was the outcome of this, and then the last two questions are just yours to answer. I don't take points off unless there's not complete sentences. But are the results of the article convincing to you? If not, why not? If so, would you change anything in your life because of the study? To me, this is a convincing article, so I did think about that. Like, I wonder, if you just want to really watch TV that much, if you shouldn't put like a stationary bike in your living room and ride your stationary bike while you watch, or some people watch on the treadmill, or, whatever. So maybe you would say that, or maybe you'd say, yeah, I'm not going to change anything because I already don't watch that much TV and it's not an issue for me, or something like that. But if you're sitting watching the computer, probably the same, I would say, as watching TV, but I'm not sure about that. And then this last one is, if there a follow-up study, would you be interested in reading it? Why or why not? And for some people, that's just totally your opinion. So 8 and 9 are just your opinion, if you'd want to read something else about that or not, or if there was additional information you'd like to have about this topic. I think the only thing I have about this article is it was only 1 week. Sometimes I have a weird week where I get into a show and I watch more TV than another week. Some weeks I don't watch TV at all. So they could pick a week that would not show. So to me, like a month might be a better study just to extend it out. So maybe I'd want to know, if I was going to follow up, like what if you looked at for a longer period of time, what would you find in that? So that's the second one. And then I want to talk about when you look at this on here, you also see the individual project reflection. I have that as a docx. I should post that as a PDF as well. But you can start to get your final portfolio done now if you start doing some of these things as you go. So in the final portfolio, it's going to ask you to upload your Project 1. And of course, Project 1 is on the computer there, but you can type in your responses into that document that I have posted. So you just copy and paste your stuff, whatever you put into your computer, paste it into that Word document so you'd have that. And then it's just asking you, how much time did you spend on this project? I'm not going back to say, like, I looked at, Canvas and you had this up for 2 hours, not 2.5 or whatever. But I just kind of want to know, as I prepare for future quarters, how much time people are spending on these assignments. So that's just kind of that. And then all you have to do is like highlight one of these words, the experience you had while completing the assignment. Was it stressful, energizing? Or you can just type in a word of your own, informative or boring or whatever you want to say. You can put whatever, or you can just take one of these words and just highlight the word. And that's all you have to do. And then the amount of effort you put into the project is just kind of your own value. What do you think? Did you actually spend time reading and trying to find those answers? The difficulty level of the project, how did you find it to be? The most difficult part of the project, again, highlight some of this or just put in your own, whatever it is. For a lot of people, it's the vocabulary. So I've tried to include some help with that as you go through there. The help and guidance was if it was inadequate or adequate or just enough or whatever. And then the point of the project was to introduce you to statistical papers and vocabulary. In that light, was the project useful or not? You can highlight more than one of these or whatever. And then explain any positive or negative experience you had while completing the assignment and something you learned from the experience. You might learn something from the article itself, like, wow, I had no idea this, blah, blah, blah. Or you might just say, I learned that it's really difficult to discover who's the researcher or who funded a project. And sometimes it is hard and sometimes it's intentionally hard. People, if you're a person in the dairy industry and you want to get a report that says everybody should drink milk every day, you might commission a study and have somebody do this research to prove that. And then maybe you wouldn't want people to know that it was funded by the dairy organization, because then people would be suspect. Oh, the dairy organization saying that it's healthy to drink milk or whatever. So people have reasons. Whatever it is that you found to do, it should be 2 or 3 sentences, well-formed, not just learned nothing, hated this, or whatever. Sometimes I get that, and it's like, whatever, you just had to write 2 sentences. You could have written 2 full sentences saying that, not just words. So if you get this done now, and you put your answers into that other page we were looking at now, then when it comes time to make your portfolio, you're just assembling those pages. You've already got them done, and you start putting them in there together. And we'll have a week where we go through the portfolio, like how to do that. But again, doing this as you go might be nice, because then you've got it completed as you need it.
When it's fresh in your brain.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're like, I don't remember how long I spent. But anyways, can I answer any questions about the project? This was just, again, an activity that's, you wouldn't see it on your side. I just put it in there so we'd have one to practice.
Just where would I find the documents you're talking about to start the final portfolio thing?
I don't think I have. Well, I think, I'm not sure what.
Start a Word document is what you mean.
Yeah, just start a Word document, because you're just going to have that a document where you just make your own, and then just put that in there. There is going to be a title page, and I'm not sure in the student view if you can. I don't want to do that. That one's not available. If I go to, let's go to home. Let's see what I can see as a student. If I went into assignments and went down to, I'm not sure if you can see it yet or not. That's what I want to see, past assignments. Yeah, I don't think you can see it until it's available. So I have it like hidden until later, because I don't want people to get too stressed out about it. But you can still go ahead and just start making a Word document and just assembling everything we do as we go through there. So what I just went through was the 96 assignment and the kind of project for this week. And so I'm going to stop my recording, and then I'll answer any questions that you have for those of you that are here.